instead of sort of just throwing you out into the wild, you really need to be positioned properly. And that's where communication comes in. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla, and today we're going to talk about a few pieces of documentation that I recommend you have in place when you are embarking on a new project or a new initiative with a client as a freelancer or a consultant or a fractional person. And obviously this is going to look different for you depending on what your offer is, what kind of work you do, what kind of clients you work with. But in general, I wanted to share with you sort of the workflow as it exists for me. This is information that is supplemental to my Freelance Project Manager Guidebook, which is available on Gumroad, and I'm going to link that in the description below. In the guidebook, I talk a lot about where to find work, how to position yourself, how to find your niche, how to build your portfolio. Those are all topics that I cover in the guidebook, but I did get some follow-up questions about how I set up documentation for myself when I'm starting a new project with a client. So I wanted to provide this video as a supplemental resource for you here. So I've got a few different documents that I recommend that you have on hand and that you use for your projects, not only to protect yourself, but also to make sure things are extra clear with your client. Now, I am going to preface this by saying I work with clients who are small, typically less than like 20 people. I work with startup founders. I work with leaders of organizations that have maybe been around for 3 or 4 years and they're trying to scale. So working with really small organizations, small teams on projects that are generally smaller in nature. So if you're working in a more bureaucratic organization, there may be more requirements for the type of documentation that you put together for your projects, and you may actually be following the lead of your particular company. But if you're in my position where you're sort of the one dictating the paperwork side of things, I wanted to give you a glimpse into what I do and how I do it. So, first things first, you do want to make sure that you're set up to sort of protect yourself in this relationship. And this is where I recommend that you go and find legal advice if needed to understand how to set up your particular entity, whether it's an LLC, it's some sort of incorporation. That's going to be up to you and your particular situation. So please do make sure you do research on that and set yourself up in the best way possible. I would also recommend that you have an independent contractor agreement on hand. And this is something that I just keep on file in case the client that I'm working with doesn't have one. I have one that I can provide that I really like. So make sure you have one of those on hand. I actually found mine on the internet. Maybe it was LegalZoom. Maybe it was one of these places. I can't remember exactly where it was, but I did find a free version and I read through it and I made some changes based on other agreements I had in the past. And I really like the one that I have right now. So if I do start working with a new client and they don't have their own IC agreement, I have my own that I can provide there and make sure that the relationship is set up appropriately. So that's the first thing. So when you're first talking to your client and they express interest in your services, you're going to want to have a project proposal that you can provide to them. And your proposal can look however you want it to look, really. I mean, it just depends on what you're doing, what your services are. But typically mine, I have a one-pager. I have a template that I got off of Canva. There's templates on Canva for free. There's templates on Google for free. You can find them all over the place, or you can make your own. Mine are usually very simple, and I just lay out the purpose of the project and the budget and the timeline and sort of what the investment is overall. It's just your proposal, and that's what you can provide to your client to give them a better idea of what it's going to look like to work with you, what they're going to get out of the relationship, what they need to put into it. So your project proposal is a document that I recommend that you have on hand that you can easily whip up and put together depending on what your client needs are. Now, I have seen some proposals that are longer right? I've seen some that are 5 or 10 pages because maybe you want to provide some more information about you and about your services, or about the system that you use, or about the process that you use, or about the method that you use. You can describe all of that in detail if you want to in your proposal. I've seen it at the beginning, I've seen it at the end. People also sometimes put testimonials in there as well. I think that's not a bad idea because you're still trying to sell yourself to your client. Really just depends, again, on you and your relationship with your client, what makes sense for you, the service that you're offering. But you can create these proposals to be as robust or as simple as you want them to be. Mine are typically pretty simple because I am working with people who know me, who know my work, who know they probably already want to hire me if we've gotten that far into the process. They just want a better idea of what cost looks like for them and what they're going to ultimately get out of it. So mine are pretty simple, but if it was with someone that, this is a new relationship, I might have something that's a bit more robust. Again, it depends, but project proposal is something that I recommend that you have. Okay. So the next thing is, if you get through the proposal stage and your client's like, okay, let's move forward with this, the next thing I would put together based on your proposal is your statement of work. You want to have your statement of work, and your statement of work really builds on that proposal. Although I have seen proposals just simply copied, and then you have like your formal statement of work with you may have more clauses in there. Really great way to figure out what you want to include in your statement of work is to look at other statements of work that you have maybe used at work, that other people have used, your friends use. Figure out what makes sense for you to include in your statement of work. But overall, again, you're going to want to be clear about what the expectations are for this thing, what's the goal, what's the purpose, what's the success criteria. Get really clear on that. What does it cost if you go over the allotted time? Is there like an hourly rate? Is there a fee beyond that? Make sure you cover yourself there, because these projects, as we know, there's scope creep and they can get out of control. Make sure you cover yourself there. These are all things that you want to include in your statement of work, but I would absolutely put one of those together for yourself as a freelancer or a consultant and get sign off from your client. Now, simultaneously, this is when I like to get really, really clear, like hyper clear about what the expectations are in terms of my role in the project, especially if I'm a fractional person, what my role is, how much time I'm going to spend on this, what exactly I'm going to do, and what exactly we want to get out of it. Again, going back to those expectations and the purpose of the project. As I said, I'm often working with small teams, with founders, and they're running in a lot of different directions, and they may have a lot of ideas, but not exactly super clear on how to get there or what they need. This is my opportunity to wrangle all of that and build more structure in there. Really build protection for myself as well, and protection for my time. So I like to get clear with those statements of work, not only in writing, but also verbally, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Now, once you are, statement of work is signed off, you're ready to kick off, I do also create a project charter, typically a one-page project charter, and this is for the internal team. This is a document that I will use in the project kickoff to walk us through the project. Again, walk us through the expectations, what everyone's role is, what does success mean? Because if you haven't figured out yet, I like to be extra clear, especially if I am a fractional person being brought in. Now, back to that, being a fractional person being brought in, you are going to want to make sure that you're positioned properly with the internal team. And the only person that can really position you properly is someone that has that influence or authority, I guess we could say, to position you properly with the team. And that's usually, in my case, that's usually the founder. And I like to ask them to please let the team know who I am and why I'm here, and how they can help and what we need from them in order to make this project work. Instead of sort of just throwing you out into the wild, you really need to be positioned properly. And that's where communication comes in. A great kickoff can make that happen. Other types of interactions with the people that you'll be working with, but you do need to be positioned properly as well. Okay, so what do we have? We have your independent contractor agreement that you always need to have. We have your project proposal, which could be a simple one-pager, or it could be a multi-page thing that shares more about you and your approach and testimonials and stuff. So that's your project proposal. You also need to have your statement of work. Again, that can be like as simple as you want it to be. I recommend looking at old versions of statements of work that have worked for you in the past. Look at ones, that have worked for your friends or your colleagues. Pull out the pieces that make sense for your business in terms of like terms and conditions. And so that's your statement of work. And then the next thing that we have is your project charter, right? And that's really for internally the teams. Again, getting super clear about what that project is, what the success criteria is, and what you expect from everyone else. Additionally, being positioned properly by your project sponsor. Okay, so that's it. And if you would like any additional help developing your freelancing strategy, check out my Freelance Project Manager Guidebook. I'm going to link that down below. And I'm also always available for one-on-one strategy sessions if you want to have some more personalized attention in developing your freelancing or consulting strategy. I'm happy to help. I'll provide that link below as well. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.